I want to tell you a story about how a few years back I almost completely accelerated my descent into the role of grumpy old man. Anger is an emotion, absolutely, but being angry and how we express that angry is a skill, right? I like to think of everything we do as a skill because generally speaking, the more you practice something, the better you get at it. And by the better I get at it, it means the quicker you were able to access it, the less resources it takes to access it. So playing a piano, at first you're thinking about every single note. Eventually, you might be able to hold a conversation whilst you do it because you can do it so well. Fantastic when it comes to playing a piano. However, when it comes to being a grumpy old man, when it comes to being aggressive, when it comes to taking that anger and putting it out into the world, it is absolutely, categorically not a good skill to spend time developing. Sorry, the horse really made me drop my game. And I could have got angry about that, and maybe years back I probably would have done. And I want to show you now how doing anger made me better at anger, quicker to anger, and ultimately set me on a path that I was just not happy to be on. I have seen plenty of grumpy old men or grumpy old women in my life, and the last thing I ever wanted to do was become one of those. And we don't just become one of those by the world giving us reasons to be angry. There are always reasons to be angry. There are also always reasons to be happy. But we don't just become a grumpy old person by the external reasons. They alone do not make you an angry or an aggressive person. We become it by regularly practicing the actions of anger. And what this might look like at the beginning might be very, very small. It might be tiny things like a little bit of road rage. There's a road, where it started for me, there's a road near my house where the village essentially has grown in population, but has absolutely not grown in terms of infrastructure. So the parking is all on the road. There's only ever room for one set of traffic to get through. And mostly when you go down this route, there are points where each person has right of way, and mostly those things are actually honoured, accepted. We do the good old British thing of the polite wave, and it all goes fantastic. But many times you will get a more aggressive, a more confident driver, a more impatient driver come the opposite way, and when it's completely your right of way, they'll just take it. They'll just go for it. This was one of the first things that started really annoying me. And you start off, the action isn't you pull the car over, you stop, you jump out and you run at the person. The action is you, to yourself, because they can't hear you, but to yourself, you say, "You're welcome," like in a super sarcastic accent. And look, you might think that you're righteous in that little outburst, and maybe you are. If you think about whether it's right or wrong to feel annoyed by these behaviours, I'd suggest you watch this video that's on screen right now about a time that I nearly ended up in a fight on an aeroplane. But it's not about whether you're right or wrong to be angry at that situation. It's about what that anger does to you, right? Does saying "you're welcome" make you then go back to the previous state of zen that you were in only moments earlier? Does letting it out of your system deal with the emotion in a way that is productive and helpful for you? If it does, then I suggest you carry on. But that's not what happened for me, and I reckon it's not what really happens for you either. Most likely what is going to happen is that next time it happens, you say "you're welcome" a little bit more sarcastically. The time after that, you might aggressively flash your headlights. The time after that, you might beep at the person. The time after that, you might wind the window down, signal for the person to stop, and shout at them. You get better at being aggressive. Instead of the passive aggressive becomes actual aggressive. And at that point, you might start really getting into trouble. And this is how aggression grows. And in our efforts to dissipate it, in our efforts to get rid of it, to control it, to let it out, we actually make it bigger. We become the person we're trying not to be. And that is exactly what happened to me. A month or so after this started happening and I started allowing myself to be more annoyed and more aggressive towards other drivers, we were in Porto. This is 2 years back in the summer. And at that point, I had a 7-month-old, 8-month-old baby, 9 months old she would have been, 9-month-old baby in a pushchair, in a pram. And if you've ever been to Porto, it's narrow streets, they're up and down, there's cobbles, there's small pavements, and it's a very, very busy place. And what would happen is people would walk in front of the pram and just get in the way and just block me and just stop and do things. And I started by being assertive. That was what my intention was. Because I talk to people about being assertive quite a lot. Because if you just go, excuse me, like little mouse, no one's going to do anything. But I started saying, excuse me, quite loud. Now, I don't know if it was it's a busy street, people weren't listening, if it was the fact that I wasn't saying it in Portuguese. I don't even know what it is in Portuguese. Can someone let me know in the comments? Obrigado. But basically, I don't know what it was. People weren't moving out the way. And because I wasn't getting what I wanted by being assertive, I started moving into aggression. So instead of like saying, excuse me, with a firm tone, I'd be like, excuse me, hello, get out the way, move. And honestly, it probably didn't escalate quite as fast as that. That what's just taken 5 seconds on this video probably took about half an hour to an hour for each one of those things to get progressively more aggressive. But it did happen. And eventually it got to the point where I wasn't even in a crowded zone. I wasn't even in a really overly populated place. We were just walking down one road and there was a woman walking, an older lady walking the opposite way, and I was on the small pavement, about this narrow, with the baby, pushing her in the pushchair, and this lady essentially just walked straight at me and forced me out onto the road. Now, when I say older, she was probably in her 60s or 70s, so there is definitely an argument as to who should have given right of way to the other person there. But this is what I want to talk about when I say about getting good at being angry. I'd spent the whole day feeling, almost building up this belief in my head that every single person out there was in my way. They were rude and they were inconsiderate. So honestly, I had to bite my tongue to not shout at this woman. Like, I really had to bite my tongue. And I didn't shout at that woman, but I did shout at another woman the next day. This frustration carried on. Hey, look, I am not proud of this, but I really want to just show you how even in a person that talks to people regularly about communication, even in a person that considers himself to be reasonably mild-mannered, I'm not, a saint or an angel. I have aggression, I have anger, I have frustration, I probably would say I feel more than any of those previous ones. But I want you to know that even in someone that knows a lot of the stuff that I share with you, this can creep in and still happen. So the following day, it was absolutely boiling, and my wife decided that she was going to go off and do some shopping whilst I looked after Isabella. And I'm pushing the pram round, and I thought to myself, you know what would be really nice would be to pop in to this bakery and just get a little snacky snack and just sit in the air conditioning for a little bit whilst I wait for Alona to be done with her shopping. And I walked past the first bakery because the queue was too long, and because I don't want to be in a queue for a long period of time with a 9-month-old baby who gets bored very easily. And so I'll get into this next queue. There's only 3 people in there, and it's a group of Australian girls. Now, I apologise to Australians for everything that is about to follow. I understand. These 3 girls were not a representation of all of you, and I absolutely understand that the accent I am almost certainly going to put on is going to be terrible. So buckle in. But the first 2 kind of order what they want and then decide to go and sit outside. It took a few seconds. The third one, the person behind the counter who was speaking perfect English, might I add, it was like, she was like, do I need to pay now? It's more Australian, or is it more New Zealand, or is it just terrible? Do I need to pay now? Do I pay later? Or do I pay now? What do I want? I don't know what I want. And then the person was like, do you want anything else? And she's like, I'm sorry, what? And she's like, and the person was like, would you like anything else? Slower, clearer, perfect English. I'm the other side of the counter. I can totally hear what this person's saying. I'm sorry, what? Would you like anything else? Is there anything else you would like? I'm sorry, what? Oh, by this point, even actually retelling the story, I'm getting some of the aggression back now, actually. I need to go and get zen after this. And at that point, I just couldn't hold my tongue any longer. And I just, not overly aggressive, I just went, he asked, is there anything else that you would want? And she turns around and looks at me and goes, I'm sorry, what? And I was like, oh, so it's not I literally full on exploded at this point. I'm like, oh, so it's not just the accent, is it? You just seriously can't. Do not listen. You cannot pay attention. You do not listen to anybody. You're just ignorant. I was like, I only came in here because there was only 3 people. All I wanted to do was get a cake, sit down with my daughter and just enjoy it. I said, you've just freaking taken like 20 minutes. You're just ridiculous. And I stormed off out the shop. Hey. Am I embarrassed? Do I feel righteous? I don't know. Bit of both, really. I felt righteous at the time because the anger was still simmering through me. It was still cooking. However, actually, telling this story back now, yeah, it feels more vulnerable than a lot of the other stories that I share on this channel. It feels very vulnerable for sure, and I am embarrassed about the fact that it did do that. I came home from the holiday and I was back driving through that road, and I'd love to say that outburst made me completely stop in my tracks and say, I don't want to be this angry person. This isn't me. I'm not growing into that. But it didn't. And a white van comes through the gap on my right of way. So I pull into the space, like the gap, and I don't give him enough space to get through, and I get him to wind the window down, and I just go to him, that was definitely my right of way, that mate, and he just goes, well, you can still fit through, can't you? Oh, I was like, so I did, I fit through, I went, I drove, and it was at that point that I actually realised, this is not who I want to be. This is not how I want to live my life. I had got really good at being bad. I had got really good at being aggressive, to the point at which if I'd have carried on down that same path, this is a couple of months that this happened, and sure, there were other things going on in my life at that time that were contributing towards the frustration, the anger and the aggression, but still, I cannot sit back and say that I personally did not make matters worse by my actions. And that's the important thing to take account of. And the way to fix this is that we do the opposite. Whenever we find ourselves in one of those situations, we take a breath, we slow down, and we just wish that person well. We think, maybe they're in more of a rush than I am. I'm not saying that you let people cut in front of you in a line, and I'm not saying that you let people push you to one side. I'm just saying, in these situations, like a traffic situation like that, that girl will not have walked away from that situation and thought she was in the wrong. She'll have thought, who was that angry Englishman? Well, or maybe she didn't pick up on the fact that I was English because she doesn't listen. But she wouldn't have done. Nothing got resolved from that situation. She felt scorned and told off and probably felt like she was just taking her time in a bakery. I felt like righteous in my anger at first, but as time's gone on, just embarrassed by it. Nothing got resolved. In most of those road rage incidences, saying you're welcome to yourself, it's not making the other person a better driver. It's just you're the one who goes forward with that anger. A little bit like with grudges. When you hold a grudge for somebody else, you're the one who holds that grudge and you're the one who feels the pain of that grudge. When it comes to anger, aggression like this, unless we are using it in a constructive way, in a creative way, in a way that builds resolutions, it's just harmful to us and to everyone else around us. And by practicing being that angry person, you're going to make it. You're going to make it so as you get older, you are quicker to anger, more grumpy. Chances are people don't want to be around. You're going to find less enjoyment in life and more unhappiness. And that is absolutely not what I want from you. So what we need to do is in each of these moments, see it as an opportunity to be calm. See it as an opportunity to rise above, maybe not even calm, to be the bigger person. So what if that person took you right away? So what if that person made you stay in a cafe for a little bit longer? And so what if you've watched that other video? If a person's child listens to their music without headphones on a plane, no. You need to watch that video though. It is about what we do. It is about the actions that we give into and therefore practice. Being angry is a habit. Being temperate, being calm is also a habit. And which one you do the most will dictate which one you are.